A very warm welcome to this video. I am Prabal Nandwani and you're watching the monthly predictions for the month of July 2023. First of all, let's have a look at the planetary changes and transitions which are happening all this month. Well, the Sun moves to Cancer on the 16th of July, and especially the important time of this transition would be, according to the Indian Standard Time, from 12:32 to 18:52 hours. And then Mercury moves to Cancer on the 8th of July and again to the sign Leo on the 25th of July. That means that Mercury all this month is moving on a very high speed. Finally, Venus moves to Leo on the 6th of July, but it gets retrograde on the 23rd of July. So these were all the planetary transitions which were happening in July 2023. And moving forward to some of the important planetary yogas which are happening this month. First of all, this is the full moon which is happening on the 3rd of July, after which we'll enter into the waning half of the month until the new moon which is going to happen on the 19th of July, which happens to be a Monday, and then of course the waxing moon is going to start. Now apart from this, we have the Gaj Kesari Yoga, which is formed by the combination of Jupiter and Moon, which happens on the 5th and the 6th, the 11th and the 12th, the 18th, 19th, 20th and the 26th and 27th of July. We have the Mahalakshmi Yoga, which is a combination of Mars and Moon, which happens on the 21st and the 22nd of July. Finally, we have the Buddha Aditya Yoga, which happens due to the combination of Sun and Mercury, which happens from the 1st to the 8th of July. That is in the Cancer sign, and again from the 17th to the 24th of July in the sign of Leo. Now, what does all of this mean generally for the world? When we see that in the Aries sign we have Rahu and Jupiter, and in Leo we have the presence of Mars, it indicates that these are very dangerous times. Why? Because both of these signs represent the government. So in the government there is a lot of mischief which is happening. These are also fiery signs, so they lead to situations where there are explosions, there is violence, there is arson, and especially the minds of the people who are at the helm of affairs, because Mars is the commander-in-chief, and those people, their mind is working in a very inflexible manner, and the designs which they are working on is sometimes nefarious. So the terrorist activities, covert operations, all these things, and big explosions and violence, so all these things are not indicating a very good time as far as the general predictions of the world is concerned. Alright, however, let's move forward and let's talk about the monthly predictions for the various zodiac signs. But before I do that, there are two important things which I need to discuss. The first is that our monthly predictions are based upon the position of the ascendant or the moon at your birth time. So whatever sign was occupied by either the moon or the ascendant when you were born in your horoscope, that particular sign's prediction is something which will be relevant for you as far as this video is concerned. Secondly, the planetary positions and their combinations at the birth time in your horoscope do matter, and in fact they do matter more. So here this would be a broad guideline subject to those combinations prevailing in your birth horoscope. So let's move on and talk about the Aries sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary positions in your horoscope throughout the month of July 2023. Well, in your first house we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. In your third house we have Mercury and Sun. In your fourth house we have Venus. In your fifth house we have Mars, and in your seventh house we have Ketu. Finally, in the 11th house we also have the presence of Saturn. What does all this planetary placement mean for various aspects of your life is something which we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Talking about the luck factor which is seen from the 9th house, the owner of the 9th house happens to be Jupiter, and Jupiter is sitting in the ascendant, and it has crossed the degrees of Rahu, which means now the luck is rising high. If there are some important decisions which you had wanted to undertake for a long period of time, then the time is ripe now. Moving on and talking about your health now. Health is seen from the first house. Now the first house is occupied by Jupiter and Rahu, and the first lord is sitting in the 5th house very comfortably and forming a 120-degree aspect with its own house, and therefore it is a good time as far as health is concerned. However, we need to be a little wary as regards any kind of injury arising from a hasty or a movement in a very hurried kind of manner. And in order to safeguard yourself from those kind of incidents, either you can donate blood or you can do worship to the Narsimha Lord. Next thing is talking about your love life. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house in your case happens to be Sun, and the Sun is sitting in the 3rd house, but on the 16th it will move to the 4th house. Also, the 5th house is being occupied by Mars, which is a good indication. So that means love life is good for you, especially before the 16th. If there were some new proposals which you were planning to give, then it is far better that you give those proposals before the 16th of July. Moving on and talking about your marital life now. Marital life is seen from the 7th house, and the presence of Ketu for the past many months over here may be a cause of either marital discords, or it may be a cause of ill health to the spouse. If that has been so, then chanting of Ketu's mantra is going to alleviate your problems, and the Bij mantras of Ketu are Om Sram Srim Sram Sa Ketve Namah. However, as far as this particular month is concerned, if we just try to zero in, then Jupiter is also trying to aspect. So any kind of remedy, any kind of medicinal remedy or any other kind of remedy which you might do will yield good results. And then better times lie ahead, because the owner, that is Venus, moves to the next sign in the 11th house to the 7th house from the 6th of July, and therefore better times are promised. Moving ahead and talking about education now. Education is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house right now till the 16th is in the 3rd house. So till then it is a good time. After that, when Sun moves on to the 4th house, it will not be as bad, but still it is better before the 16th. Moving forward and talking about your career now, which is seen from the 10th house, and the owner of the 10th house is sitting comfortably in the 11th house, but right now it is a little retrograde, forming combinations with Ketu and also being in grip with Mars. Now, what does this mean for you? This means that although it is a very good period for you, generally speaking, the whole year would be good, but right now for 1 or 2 months, especially till the time when the Saturn is retrograde till 4th of November, there is a little setback. So you need to pause a little, work your bit, and then move forward again with equal zeal which you were having earlier. Now, talking about your business prospects. Business is seen from the 7th house, and the presence of Ketu over there is something which is not good, except for those few people who are either in mining or in chemical related business or some kind of investigative work. Now, apart from them, Venus, the position of Venus is not very comfortable, number one. Number two, Ketu is occupying the 7th house. All it means is you need to be more flexible and you need to be more wary while entering into new business, because the prospects of business are not very, very promising, especially for 1 or 2 months. Moving ahead and talking about the Taurus sign now. Let's first of all have a look at where the various planets are positioned in your horoscope all through the month of July 2023. Well, in your 2nd house, we have the presence of Mercury and Sun. In your 3rd house, we have the presence of Venus. In the 4th house, Mars. In the 6th house, Ketu. In the 10th house, Saturn. And finally, in the 12th house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. What does all this planetary placement in various houses mean for your various life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Let's talk about your luck factor now. Luck is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house happens to be Saturn, which is very comfortably placed in the 10th house, but it is retrograde and therefore it is coming in the grips of Mars and Ketu. What it means is the luck is not so high. It will again become high after the 4th of November. Till then, if there were some important decisions which were looming large on your mind, you need to hold your horses, and after the Saturn gains a forward movement, then you can go ahead with all your earlier plans. Okay, and take those important decisions. Let's talk about the health factor now, which is seen from the ascendant, and the owner of the ascendant happens to be Venus. Venus is lying in the 3rd house, but will move to the 4th house very soon from the 6th of July onwards, but it will be in the company of Mars. Now, talking about Mars in your horoscope, it happens to be the 12th lord, and it also happens to be the 7th lord, which means that you need to be little careful regarding your health. It is far better that if you feed yourself with healthy food, with food from cooked at home, rather than eating food at restaurants and eating junk food. So that will be far better. Moving ahead and talking about your love life now, which is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is in a great speed. Mercury, very, very high speed. It is moving 2 signs. It is covering a distance of many degrees in July 2023. First, it will move to Cancer and then to Leo. So once it enters Leo, that is from the it moves to Cancer on the 8th and stays there till 25th. And after 25th, it will move to Leo, and in Leo, it will find itself in a lot of comfort. But in Cancer, it is not very comfortable, and therefore chances of new love arising will be far better when it enters the Leo sign after the 25th. Before that, your love life is smooth, just a little jealousy factor here or there sometimes, which is part and parcel of the love. And then moving ahead and talking about marital life now. Marital life is seen from the 7th house, and the owner of the 7th house happens to be Mars. Mars all this month is placed in the 4th house in Leo sign, which is a good indication, along with Venus, and Venus happens to be the ascendant lord as well as the lord of the 6th house. What it means is that there might be little misunderstandings because of stubbornness of your spouse, but overall it is a good time as far as marital relations are concerned. Moving ahead and talking about your education now, which is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is sitting in the 2nd house, will move to the 3rd house and will move to the 4th house, largely in the company of Sun, and Sun in your case is the 4th lord, and 4th lord is always helping the educational pursuits, and therefore as far as education is concerned, the month of July offers you enough opportunities and enough success. Let's move forward and talk about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house, and the 10th house is occupied by Saturn. Now Saturn in the 10th house. Saturn in the 10th house is good, but right now Saturn is retrograde, and it is in the grips of Mars and Ketu. Because it is in the grips of Mars and Ketu, this is not a very conducive time as far as career is concerned, because you might face opposition from the boss, or you might face opposition from some of the customers. So you will have to try and work your way out through these challenges, and if the challenges are more, then doing Ganesh Chalisa is going to help you. But this is definitely not the time to go on and look for some new opportunities. Let's move forward and talk about the business life now. Business is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Mars, which is comfortably placed in the 4th house, and it will be joined by Venus, which is the ascendant in the 6th house. This promises to be a very good time as far as business is concerned. So the business is expected to grow. The customers are expected to grow all this month of July 2023. Let's move forward and talk about the Gemini sign now. Let's have a look at the planetary placements in your horoscope throughout the month of July 2023. Well, in your 1st house, we have the presence of Sun and Mercury. In the 2nd house, we have Venus. In the 3rd house, Mars. In the 5th house, Ketu. In the 9th house, Saturn. And in the 11th house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Let's talk about your luck factor first. The luck is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house is sitting in the 9th house, but unfortunately it is retrograde, and therefore it is coming in the grips of Mars and coming in the grips of Ketu, and because of that, luck is running a little low. And since the luck is running a little low, it is time for you to postpone any of the important decisions which you might have thought to undertake. Let's move on to your health now. Health is seen from the first house. The owner of the first house is sitting in the first house itself, which is a good indicator, but only till the 8th. And from the 8th to 25th, it will sit in the second house, which again doesn't promise to be bad. And then thereafter in the third house, where again it will be joined by Sun very soon. So all this promises to be good. Just a little bit vary from the 8th till the 25th as far as cold and cough is concerned. That's it. And moving ahead and talking about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Venus, and Venus all this month after the 6th of July will be placed in the house of Leo along with Mars, and Mars happens to be the 11th lord, and it also happens to be the 6th lord. So what it will give it will give a little bit of arguments as far as love life is concerned. So you need to make sure that you don't get the arguments take over your relationship, especially since Ketu is also present in the 5th house for the past many months. So it will be difficult, but since Jupiter is watching it, so good sense will prevail, and somehow you guys will be able to overcome this arguments or this disharmony in relationship. So let's move ahead and talk about the married life now. The married life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house is Jupiter, and it is comfortably placed in the 11th house, and it has also crossed the degrees of Rahu. It will form 120-degree combination with Venus and Mars right from the 8th of the 6th of July, which means is you're going to have a smooth sailing as far as marriage is concerned. If there were some unresolved issues, they will be resolved this month. Let's talk about your education now. Ketu is sitting in the house of education, that is the 5th house, and the 5th lord is right now in the 2nd house, but from the 6th it will go on and join Mars in the 3rd house. But Mars also happens to be the 11th lord, which means it is a good time as far as education is concerned. If you take some examinations, you'll be able to score more marks than you initially expected. Isn't that a good time? Let's talk about your career now. Career is seen from the 10th house, and the owner of the 10th house is there in the 11th house, which is a very good sign. So in case you were looking for promotion in order to have some out of India or out of whatever country you are living in assignments, it is a very, very good time. Promotions are on the cards, new projects are on the cards, new job is on the cards. It is a good time, fulfilling time, satisfying time. Let's move on to your business life now. Business life is seen from the 7th house, and the owner of the 7th is comfortably placed in the 11th house. Again, it is a very good time as far as business is concerned. If you were looking to introduce some new product lines, if you were looking on to explore some new territories, then this is the time. Just go ahead and you will find success. And let's move forward and talk about the Cancer sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the planetary placements in your horoscope throughout the month of July 2023. Well, in your first house, we have the presence of Venus. In the second house, we have the presence of Mars. In your fourth house, we have the presence of Ketu. In your 8th house, we have the presence of Saturn. In your 10th house, we have the presence of Jupiter and Rahu. In your 12th house, we have the presence of Mercury and Sun. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. First of all, let's talk about your luck factor, because that is the most important thing, my dear friends. So the luck is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house is sitting in the 10th house, although it is with Rahu, but it has crossed the degrees of Rahu, which means the luck has started to rise. It is supporting you. If there were some important decisions that you were thinking to take for a long period of time, then this is the time has come. You can take those important decisions for your life. Let's move on and talk about your luck factor now. So the the health factor now. The health is seen from the first house, and the first house is occupied for a few days till the 6th by Venus, from the 8th till the 25th by Mercury, and also it will be joined by Sun from the 16th of July. Now, what does all this mean for you? The Sun in your horoscope happens to own the 2nd sign, and Mercury, which will also be there in the first house, happens to be the 12th lord as well as the 3rd lord. All it means is that you need to be a little wary as far your health is concerned. You need to eat food at home and you need to sleep well. If you can do that, then your health will be good all this month of July 2023. Moving ahead and talking about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Mars, and Mars is placed in the 2nd house, but it will be joined by Venus. Venus in your case happens to be the 11th lord as well, and therefore this promises a very good time as far as your love life is concerned. There might be some new love proposals on the cards. If you were thinking to propose someone, then this is the right time, especially after the 6th of July. And this might see success. So as far as your love life is concerned, it is going to be extremely good. Moving ahead and talking about your married life now. Married life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house is sitting in the 8th house and is a retrograde, so it is also under the grips of Mars and Ketu. It doesn't promises to be a good time as far as marital relationship is concerned. It is a time of a lot of misunderstandings or the spouse suffering from ill health. In any of these conditions, you must take the necessary precautions, the necessary medicines, as well as necessary consultations in case that is the case, to make sure that this problem is alleviated as soon as possible. However, if you want to do something on your own, then what you can do is then you can chant the Ganesh Chalisa every morning and evening. And on Tuesdays, you can chant Hanuman Chalisa in the morning as well as in the evening. Now let's move forward and talk about the educational prospects. Education is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is combining with the 11th house from the 6th of July. And therefore, if you were planning to take some examinations, then you're going to get better marks than you initially expected. It is going to be a good time as far as education is concerned after the 6th of July. Moving forward and talking about your career now. Career is seen from the 10th house, and in the 10th house we have the presence of Jupiter and Rahu, and Mars, its owner, is there forming a 120-degree combination in the 2nd house. So there might have been some problems earlier, or there might still be some problems. However, you'll be able to fly high and secure your position and status in spite of the problems which are brewing in the workplace. Next is talking about your business. Business is seen from the 7th house, and the owner of the 7th house has moved on to the 8th house, and being under the grips of Mars and Ketu doesn't promise to be a very good time. So do not invest more in business right now. Be very careful when some new proposal or new customer walks in, because this might be a trap. So it is important to hold your horses for this particular month and move forward again from the 4th of November, when Saturn turns and becomes direct. Alright, let's talk about the Leo sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary positions in your horoscope all the month of July 2023. Well, in your 1st house we have the presence of Mars, in your 3rd house we have the presence of Ketu, in your 7th house we have the presence of Saturn, in your 9th house we have 2 planets, Rahu and Jupiter. In your 11th house, again 2 planets, Mercury and Sun, and in your 12th house we have the presence of Venus. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is certainly something which we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Let's talk about your luck factor now. The luck is seen from the 9th house, and the presence of Jupiter and Rahu over there is kind of giving a mixed baggage. But Mars is at a 120-degree, and therefore the luck has started to be good for you. It has started to rise. Moving on and talking about health now. Health is seen from the 1st house, and the presence of the 9th lord and the 4th lord in the 1st house gives you enough immunity power all this month. However, it will be joined by Venus very soon from the 6th of July, and Venus in your case happens to be the 10th lord as well as the 3rd lord, which is again not a bad sign. So health is largely good as far as this month is concerned. But since the ascendant lord Sun is going to move from the 16th in the 12th house, so therefore you need to be a little cautious regarding your eyes. Wash your eyes regularly, little cautious about your feet. So have a warm water bath, and that will take care of your health by and large. Moving forward and talking about your love life now, which is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house is watching the 5th house, and it's a very good time, especially for any kind of intercaste affairs. Moving forward in talking about your marital life now, which is seen from the 7th house, and the 7th lord is placed in the 7th house, which is a very good sign. Also, it is being aspected by Mars, and also from the 6th of July by Venus, which is again a good sign, not a bad sign at all. So you're going to have a good month as far as marital relationships are concerned. Now let's move forward and talk about your educational prospects. Education is seen from the 5th house. The lord of the 5th house happens to be Jupiter, which is at a 120 degree, and the 5th house is also at a 120 degree from the 9th lord, which happens to be a very promising combination, and many of you guys might adopt unfair means to pass the exams or some things like those. However, whatever marks you expected, you will be gaining a little more than your expectations. So it is a good time as far as education is concerned, and if there were some important examinations that you were planning to take, this is the right time. Moving ahead and talking about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house, and the 10th lord happens to be Venus, and Venus is right now till the 6th of July in the 12th house, but it is changing and going on to the Ascendant, which is a very good combination. So career is going to be rising from the 6th of July. It is going to prove a good month. Now, since Venus also happens to be the 3rd lord, a short journey is also on the cards. Let's move ahead and talk about your business life now. Now, business is seen from the 7th house. The 7th house is being occupied by the 7th lord Saturn. Also, it is being aspected by Mars and Venus, the 10th lord and the 9th lord. Again, this is a very good time for business growth. If you were having any plans to invest more in business, to expand your product line, to move on to new business territories, then this is perfect timing to do so. All right, let's move forward and talk about the Virgo sign now. First of all, we will have a look at the various planets which are positioned in your horoscope all the month of July 2023. Well, you have Ketu in the 2nd house. Your 6th house is occupied by Saturn, the 8th house is occupied by Rahu and Jupiter, the 10th house is occupied by Sun and Mercury, the 11th house by Venus, and the 12th house by Mars. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Talking about your luck factor first. Luck is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house happens to be Venus, which is sitting in the 11th house till the 6th of July and then in the 12th house. So till the 6th of July, luck is favoring you 100%, but after that it will move to the 12th house, which is not very good. So in case you were thinking of taking some important decisions, then please hold your horses until the luck starts to favor you again. Moving ahead and talking about your health, which is seen from the 1st house, and the owner of the 1st house happens to be Mercury. And where is Mercury all this month? It is moving at a great speed right from the 10th house to the 11th house and to the 12th house. So it will remain by and large in the 11th house from the 8th till the 25th, and this is the time which is good as far as your health is concerned. After it moves to the 12th house, that is after the 25th, you need to be a little wary about what you eat and have a good amount of sleep to make sure that you maintain good health. After that, let us move on to your love life now. The love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Saturn, but it is A in the 6th house, and B, it is retrograde, so it is under the grips of Rahu, of Mars and Ketu, and therefore this is not a very good time as far as love life is concerned. There are disagreements which are on the cards, and it is not a good time at all to offer new proposals, except for if you want to propose your boss who is a Christian or an intercaste, and or only for them it is a good time. Otherwise, it is good for you to pause a little, and then after the situation changes, then you can start and give you the proposals which are there running in your mind all throughout. Okay, talking about married life now. Now, marriage is seen from the 7th house, and the owner of the 7th house is supposed to be Jupiter, and Jupiter is also in the 8th house, which is not at all a good sign, and it is also with Rahu, so which means either there will be unnecessary misunderstandings or the spouse might suffer from some kind of ill health. And if that is the case, then doing of Rahu's Bij mantra is very important. Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sar Rahave Nama. Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sar Rahave Nama every morning, at least 108 times. and this is going to alleviate the bad marital relationships. Let's move ahead and talk about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house, and the Lord of the 5th is sitting in the 6th and under the grips of Mars and Ketu. Not a very good time as far as education is concerned. So whatever our expectation is that we must get these many marks, we will get a little less. So all it means is that you need to put in little more effort in your education. Let's move forward and talk about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house. The 10th house is occupied by Sun and Mercury currently till the 8th. Now, on the 8th, the Mercury will move, and on the 16th, the Sun will move out from here to the next sign. And the next will be the 11th house. And therefore, all this month is very good as far as career is concerned. In case you were looking forward to some new kind of jobs, then also new opportunities are on your way. If you were looking for some kind of pay rise, some kind of appreciation letters, this is also something which is on your way. Let's talk about the business life now. The business life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house is in the 8th house, so this is not a good combination. But Venus, which happens to be the 10th lord, and it also happens to be the 2nd lord, will move to the 12th house and have an aspect to Jupiter, which means that temporarily this will be a good month. Unexpectedly, you will be gaining some new payments. Maybe that these payments were belonging to some of the clients who were not paying in the previous months, and now suddenly they are going to revive their situations, and you are going to receive payments from them, or these might be some new orders. So largely it is good prospects for the Virgo natives as far as business is concerned. Let's move forward now and talk about the Libra sign. First of all, let's have a look at the various planets which are positioned in your horoscope all the month of July 2023. Well, we have Ketu sitting in your Ascendant, we have Saturn sitting in your 5th house, we have Rahu and Jupiter sitting in your 7th house, your 9th house is occupied by Mercury and Sun, your 10th house is occupied by Venus, and your 11th house is occupied by Mars. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. First of all, let's talk about your luck factor. The luck factor is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house is sitting in the 9th house, and after some time it will go in the 10th house. Both of these positions are good, and therefore the luck is favoring you. And therefore, if there were some important decisions which we were thinking to take for the past many years, then this is the time. Big decisions mean decisions like moving, migrating, marrying, having children. These are the big decisions. Changing the field of career, these are what I call big decisions. Now let's move forward and talk about your health. Health is seen from the 1st house, where there is the presence of Ketu, which might lead to tensions, blockages, and if that has been the case for previous few months, then Ayurvedic treatment is something, or even acupressure treatment is something which is going to immensely benefit you. The next thing which you can do is you can do the Bij mantras of Ketu, which is Om Sram Srim Sram Sa Ketve Nama. Now, as far as this particular month only is concerned, Venus we see will move to the 11th house, and therefore if you're taking these kind of treatments, your position is going to get alleviated, you're going to get better. Now let's talk about your love life. The love life is seen from the 5th house, and in the 5th house we have the mighty Saturn, although it will be there for the next year, but right now it is retrograde till what? Till the 4th of November, and therefore till the 4th of November it is under the grips of Ketu and Mars, so it is not a good time as far as the love life is concerned. It is going to create a lot of frictions between you and your loved one, and if you were thinking of giving some new proposals, then you should wait a little till the 4th of November, and after that, work on those proposals. Moving ahead and talking about the married life now. Married life is seen from the 7th house. In the 7th house we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. Now, Mars is the owner of the 7th house, is sitting in the 11th house. So, it is not a bad time as far as marriage is concerned. If there were some problems, some miscommunications, some misunderstandings between you and your spouse, that is going to get over, and you're going to get over as a couple over all these misunderstandings, and harmony is going to prevail all the month of July 2023 as far as your marital relationships are concerned. Moving ahead and talking about your education now, which is seen from Saturn and the 5th house. But Saturn is retrograde under the grips of Ketu and Mars. But since Ketu is in the Ascendant and since Mars is in the 11th house, therefore the educational prospects will be good all this month. You will study very hard and therefore you're going to gain good marks out of it. Talking about your career now, the career is seen from the 10th house. In the 10th house, what do we see? We see the presence of Mercury and then Sun. Mercury is the 9th lord and Sun is the 11th lord, and therefore you're going to have a good time as far as career is concerned all this month of July 2023. Moving ahead and talking about your business life now, which is seen from the 7th house. In the 7th house, we have the 6th lord, Jupiter, also happens to be the 3rd lord. So I see new proposals coming in and your business blooming all the month of July 2023. Let's move ahead to the Scorpio sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary positions in your horoscope in the month of July 2023. Well, we have Saturn sitting in your 4th house and your 6th house being occupied by Rahu and Jupiter. In your 8th house, we have Mercury and Sun. In your 9th house, we have Venus. In your 10th house, we have Mars. And in your 12th house, we have the presence of Ketu. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects? It's something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. First of all, let's have a talk about your luck. Luck is seen from the 9th house, and the 9th house will be occupied by Mercury by and large from the 8th till the 25th, also by Sun from the 16th onwards. However, the presence of Mercury here, which happens to be the 8th lord, is not a good sign, and therefore the luck is running low. If there were some important decisions which you were thinking of taking, then this is not the right time. Hold your horses till the time when Mercury crosses this after the 25th, which will be a better time. Now talking about your health now, health is seen from the Ascendant, and the owner of the Ascendant is sitting in the 10th house. This is a good sign. It will be joined by Venus. Now Venus in your case happens to be the 12th lord, and it also happens to be the 7th lord. All it means is the health is by and large going to be good. The only thing you need to be a little wary about is sleeping well. Moving forward and talking about your love life now. The love life is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is sitting in the 6th house with Rahu, though there might have been some misunderstandings which might be continuing between you and your love partner. And if that has been the case, then you need to chant Rahu's Bij mantras, and the Bij mantras of Rahu are Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sa Rahve Nama. Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sa Rahve Nama. Alright, moving ahead and talking about your marital life now, which is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house will move on the 6th of July to the 10th house, and it will join Mars. Mars in your horoscope happens to be the Ascendant Lord, and therefore by and large the married life is going to run in a smooth fashion. Now let's talk about your educational prospects. Education is seen from the 5th house. Now the lord of the 5th house is in the 6th house, and it is with Rahu, and it is also aspected by the 6th lord through 120-degree aspect. Also, Venus is going to join, which is the 7th lord and the 12th lord. Now all this signifies that there are going to be a lot of distractions, and the numbers which you were expecting in case you have given an exam will be a little lesser. You need to put a little more effort into your studies, and if there are distractions which you want to nullify or you want to lessen, then you should chant Rahu's Bij mantra. Rahu's Bij mantra is Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sa Rahve Nama. Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sa Rahve Nama. Let's move forward and talk about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house, and the 10th house is occupied by Mars, and from the 8th Venus is also going to join in. So this is going to be good time as far as career is concerned. Let's talk about your business now. Business is seen from the 7th house. The 7th lord happens to be Venus, which will move to the 10th house, which is also a very good indication, and therefore July 2023 promises to be very good as far as business prospects are concerned for people who are born in the Scorpio sign. Let's move forward and discuss about the Sagittarius sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the planetary placements in the month of July 2023 in the horoscope of those people who were born in the Sagittarius sign. Well, in your third house we have Saturn, in your fifth house we have Rahu and Jupiter, in your seventh house we have Mercury and Sun, in your eighth house we have Venus, in your ninth house we have Mars, and finally in your 11th house we have Ketu. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to discuss right ahead. Talking about your luck factor first. Luck is seen from the 9th house, and the 9th lord is going to come to the 8th house from the 16th, and therefore the luck is little better before the 16th. But after the 16th it is not at all good. So therefore, if there were some important decisions which you were supposed to take, then do that before the 16th of July. Let's talk about your health factor now. The health is seen from the Ascendant, from the first house. The owner of the first house in your case happens to be Jupiter, and Jupiter is sitting in the fifth house, but it has crossed the degrees of Rahu, and therefore by and large the health is going to be better. But since there is an aspect of Mars, so you need to be a little wary while you are driving. Be a little slow. While you are climbing or using the stairs, be a little slow. Okay, let's talk about your love life now. The love life is seen from the fifth house, and the owner of the fifth house happens to be Mars, which is aspecting its own house, and the presence of Jupiter is also there, so it is a very, very good time as far as love is concerned. If you were thinking of proposing someone, then this is the right time. If you were thinking that somebody is going to propose to you, then that even can happen. If the love affair was something which is intercaste, then also the chances are very nice. So love is in the air, my dear friends, for you guys. Let's talk about the marital prospects now. Let's see what is there as far as the marital prospects are concerned for those who are born in the Sagittarius sign. For the month of July 2023, I see that for marriage we see the 7th house, and the 7th lord is sitting in the 7th house, but is very soon going to the 8th house. So from the 8th till the 25th, there might be a little bit of misunderstandings between you and your spouse, which you need to control. And if you want to do that, then be tight-lipped, number 1. Number 2, think positive. And number 3, chant the Bij mantras of Mercury. The Bij mantras of Mercury are what? Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sabuddhaya Nama. Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sabuddhaya Nama. Alright, let's move forward and talk about your educational prospects now. Education is seen from the 5th house, and the presence of Rahu over there gives a lot of distraction, but since Jupiter is there and the 5th lord is also watching the 5th house, therefore educational chances are very nice. You'll have the willpower, you will be able to get yourself off those distractions which are happening around you. You'll be able to study, and you'll be able to secure more marks than you initially expected. Moving forward and talking about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house has moved to the 3rd house, but it is retrograde, A, and B, it is aspected by Mars and Ketu, which means the career is not a very, very good time. There will be opposition from the boss, from the colleagues, or from the customers. You need to sail your way through. It is not a good time to go in for a new job. So what can you do? You can chant the Bij mantras of Ketu and Mars alternatively. One in the morning and one in the evening, preferably Ketu in the morning and Mars in the evening. What is the Bij mantra of Ketu? Om Sram Srim Sram Sa Ketve Namah. What is the Bij mantra of Mars? Om Krang Kring Krong Sa Bhamaya Namah. Alright, let's move forward and talk about your business life now. Business is seen from the 7th house, and the owner of the 7th house is going in the 8th house, and the sun will also join it from the 16th. This is not a good time as far as business is concerned. Do not invest your money in some new proposals. They might be fishy. Hold for a little time till the 25th, and after the 25th the sun will shine again, and you can move forward with your business activities as usual. Alright, let's move forward, guys, and talk about the Capricorn sign. In the month of July 2023, Here is where the planets are lying in your horoscope. Well, in your second house, we have the presence of Saturn. In your fourth house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. In your sixth house, we have the presence of Mercury and Sun. In your seventh house, we have the presence of Venus. In your eighth house, we have the presence of Mars. And finally, in the 10th house, we have the presence of Ketu. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to discuss right ahead in detail. First thing is luck. The luck is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house happens to be, in your case, Mercury, and Mercury is there in the 6th house, and move forward to the 7th house from the 8th till the 25th. So luck is like on an average side, because Sun is the 8th lord, so it is not very good, because it will largely be with the Sun all this month. Moving forward and talking about your health now. Health is seen from the 1st house, and the owner of the 1st house is sitting in Saturn, sitting in the 2nd house, but it is retrograde, and therefore it is combining, it is in the grips of Mars and Ketu, and therefore you need to be on guard as far as health is concerned. And if you are suffering from any problem, then you can chant Ganesh Chalisa twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, to alleviate your prospects. Moving forward and talking about your love life now. The love life is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house happens to be Venus. And where is Venus? Venus is right there in the 7th house, moving towards the 8th house from the 6th of July and joining Mars. Now, what does all this mean for you? It means that this is not a very good time. It can lead to arguments over petty issues. You need to be on guard. You need to be forgiving. What is love meant for otherwise? If you can't even forgive your loved one, give some discount. Forgive your loved partner. Then your love life will be sailing smoothly. Let's move forward and talk about your married life now. Now, married life is seen from the 7th house, and in the 7th house, we'll have the presence of Mercury and Sun, which is the 6th and the 8th lord. So it is not a very good thing. There might be problems between you and your partner because of some third-party intervention, because of what the relatives from the maternal side say, or what the in-laws, that is from the spouse side, say, and because of them there might be misunderstandings. So what you need to do is, between the both of you, you need to decide that we are not going to fight over whatever the other people tell us to. We are not going to be fighting amongst each other just because somebody said some things about us. Also, what you can do in this particular case is you can chant the mantras of Mercury, and the Bij mantra of Mercury is Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sabuddhaya Nama. Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sabuddhaya Nama. Alright, let's move forward and talk about your educational prospects now. Education is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is going to move to the 8th house from the 6th, and this is not going to be a good time as far as education is concerned. You need to hold your horses. You need to, if you can, postpone the examinations which you need to take. That will be better. However, if you want that you have to take the examinations now, then put in some more effort, because the results which we are going to get is going to be little less than what we have initially planned for. Okay, let's move forward and talk about your career prospects now, which is seen from the 10th house. And the 10th house is being occupied by Ketu, but is also aspected by Jupiter. So now the career is starting to be better. You were disillusioned. If you were disillusioned by your job in the earlier months, then this is the time for you to start to think about a change, because a change is there on the cards. If you want, you can apply for a new job and you'll be able to get that. Moving ahead and talking about your business life now. The business is seen from the 7th house. Now, the 7th house will largely be occupied by the 6th lord Mercury from the 8th till the 25th, and this will be a good time as far as business is concerned. Although from the 16th the Sun will also join in, but largely it will be a good time as far as business is concerned. Let's move ahead and talk about the Aquarius sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary placements in your horoscope throughout the month of July 2023. Well, we have Saturn in your 1st house. Your 3rd house is occupied by Rahu and Jupiter, the 5th house occupied by Mercury and Sun, the 6th house occupied by Venus, the 7th house occupied by Mars, and the 9th house occupied by Ketu. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to discuss in detail right now. First of all, let's talk about your luck factor. The luck had been a little on the back seat because Ketu had been occupying the 9th house, except for, travels, for which Ketu does support. And right now Saturn is also retrograde, but since Venus is going to move on, Venus, this is in your case the 9th lord, it is going to move on to the 7th sign. The things are going to improve a little. They're going to improve from this point onwards. This is what I can say. Now, moving on and talking about your health now. Health is seen from the 1st house, and Saturn, the 1st lord, is sitting in the 1st house, but it is retrograde, and therefore it is coming again in the axis of, under the grips of Mars and Ketu. And this is not good, and therefore you need to be little on guard. The digestion might be compromised. You might be feeling little lazy in the legs. You might be feeling little weak in the legs. So what you can do is eat food cooked at home. Be wary of what you eat less. And if you want to do something astrologically, then you can chant Hanuman Chalisa and Ganesh Chalisa on alternative days. Let's talk about your love life now, which is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house is right now in the 5th house, but will largely be in the 6th house from the 8th till the 25th. And after that, we'll move to the 7th house, which means basically is that till the 25th, it is not a very good time, but after the 25th of July, that last week of July will be very good. In case you were thinking of converting your love affair into marriage, so you want to propose your loved one regarding marriage, then from the 25th it will be a very, very good and conducive time for doing that. And let's talk about the married life now, which is seen from the 7th house, and in the 7th house we'll have Mars and Venus from the 6th of July. So what does this mean for you? It means that it is not a very good time as far as marital relationships are concerned, because why is not this a very good time? Because Venus, it happens to be, in your case, the 4th lord and the 9th lord, and Mars, in your case, happens to be the 3rd lord, and it also happens to be the 8th lord. The 10th lord. And Venus and Mars, their signs are being tenated by Rahu and Ketu. What it means is, basically, some deeds of your previous lives are going to dominate your relationship all throughout this month of July 2023. Let's move forward and talk about your educational life now. As far as your education is concerned, education is seen from the 5th house. So it is a good month as far as education is concerned till the 8th of July, and again in the last week from the 25th till the 31st of July. Now in between, that is from the 8th to the 25th, it is not a very good sign. It is going to create some disturbances. The routine of study is going to get disturbed. So if you were planning of taking some examinations, do that till the 8th or after the 25th of July 2023. Let's move forward and talk about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house. In the 10th house, we have no planet, but the owner of the 10th house is sitting in the 7th house. It is also being aspected by the Ascendant Lord, so it is a good time as far as your career is concerned. If you were planning to make a shift, it is a good time. If you were planning to ask for a project which you really like to do rather than the projects which are assigned to you and you don't like them, then this is the perfect time to request for a project change. So let's talk about your business now. The business is seen from the 7th house. In the 7th house, we have Mars and Venus. And Mars is supposed to be the 3rd and the 10th lord. And Venus, in your case, happens to be the 4th and the 9th lord. So this is a good time as far as business is concerned. Suddenly, there would be some new customers. And if there were some payments which you didn't get earlier, you will start to get them in installments in this particular month. Let's move forward to the Pisces sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the various planets which are positioned in your horoscope throughout the month of July 2023. Well, in your second house, we have Rahu and Jupiter. In your fourth house, we have Mercury and Sun. In your fifth house, we have Venus. In your sixth house, we have Mars. In your eighth house, we have Ketu. And finally, in your 12th house, we have the presence of Saturn. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Let's talk about your luck first. Luck is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house happens to be, in your case, Mars. And Mars is sitting in the 6th house all throughout this month. And it is also being aspected by Jupiter, but also by Rahu. And therefore, luck is on, I can say, an average side. Especially it will be joined by Venus, which is the 8th lord. So luck is just average. It is not high, and therefore if you were planning to take some important decisions, this is not a conducive time. Let's move forward and talk about your health now. Health is seen from the first house. The owner of the first house happens to be Jupiter, and Jupiter is there in the second house. It has already crossed the degrees of Rahu, and therefore it is a good time as far as health is concerned. Just be on guard for some injuries, because Mars and Rahu, sometimes their combination gives some kind of injuries. So drive slowly and be careful while you're climbing the stairs. Moving forward and talking about your love life now. The love life is seen from the 5th house, and the 5th house will be tenated by Mercury, which is the 4th lord, and it is also the in your case the 7th lord, and it will also be tenated by Sun, which is the 6th lord. So it will be a mixed bag till the 16th, till the time when the Sun does not enter. It is a very good time. So from the 1st till 16th, it is a good time in case you were planning to give some new love proposal, and even in case you're having a love affair but you wanted to convert it into marriage. Till the 16th, it is a very good time. After the 16th, the Sun will also join Mercury, which will cause a little bit of problems, because Sun in your case happens to be the 6th lord. Let's move forward and talk about your marital life now. The marital life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Mercury, and it will be going in the 5th house. Now this is a good sign. So largely things are going to run smoothly for you as far as marital life is concerned all throughout the month of July 2023. Let's move forward and talk about the educational prospects now. The education is seen from the 5th house. Now it will be occupied by Mercury, the Karka, or the natural significator of education, and also it will be occupied by Sun, which will give you a good time as far as education is concerned. Especially if you are planning to take some competitive exams, then this is the good time. Luck is favoring you. Go ahead and do your studies. Let's talk about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house happens to be Jupiter. The Jupiter is sitting comfortably in the sign of Aries, and it has crossed the degrees of Rahu, and is also being aspected through 120 degree by Mars. So this is a good time as far as your career is concerned. The career is blooming. Now let's move on and talk about your business now. The business is seen from the 7th house, and the 7th lord happens to be Mercury, which will be going in the 5th house, and Sun will also join it, and Sun is the 6th lord, and therefore it is a good time as far as business is concerned. So in case you were planning to invest more in your business, then this is the right time. If you were planning to expand your product line, this is a good time. If you were planning to execute orders from some new customers and you were not very sure whether you will get the payment or not, then this is a good time to go ahead, because business seems to be nice as far as this month is concerned. So this is all I have for you for the month of July. Until we meet next time in our next video, may God shower His immense blessings and beneficence upon you. This is Prabal Nandwani signing off.